The heavy velvet curtains muffled the sounds of the city outside, creating a cocoon of silence within the opulent suite of the Oakwood Hotel. An ornate chandelier cast a warm glow over the room, highlighting the rich hues of deep burgundy and ebony, colors that mirrored the tumultuous emotions swirling in Mia's chest. She leaned against the cool wall, the delicate lace of her sleeveless top whispering against her skin, sending ghostly shivers down her spine. Tonight felt different, charged with an electricity that both thrilled and terrified her. The gala celebrating the anniversary of her father's prestigious art gallery drew the city's elite. Deceptively elegant was the air, thick with desire, and secrets kept buried under layers of silk and charm. As much as she loved her family legacy, Mia had never felt completely at home among this glamorous world. When her gaze flicked to the grand entrance, the crowd thickened, laughter mingling with the soft notes of a string quartet. She scanned the faces, searching for someone who made her heart race each time their paths crossed. Her thoughts drifted to Noah, the enigmatic man who had brushed against her reality like a summer storm, stirring something deep within her that she was both eager and frightened to articulate. Noah was her brother's childhood friend. Their bond had only intensified over the years, morphing into a complex web of emotion that Mia found herself tangled in. He didn't belong to the same world as Mia. He was rugged where she was polished, wild where she was restrained. The thought of him made her skin prickle with awareness, a dangerous and intoxicating feeling she couldn't shake. Her curiosity about him had morphed into a shadowy longing. Every passing glance they shared, every fleeting moment at family gatherings, held a magnetism she didn't fully comprehend. The intricate patterns of Mia's thoughts shifted like the shadows dancing on the walls, a whirlwind of doubt and illicit yearning. She pressed her palm against her heart, as if to quell its frantic rhythm. Each heartbeat echoed memories of what she had tried to bury, lost dreams, and whips of passion that made her breath quicken and her skin tingle. The sudden rattle of the hotel door broke her reverie. She turned, breath hitching, as she met the piercing gaze of a man who seemed to step straight from the depths of her most clandestine fantasies. Sebastian. His name tasted forbidden on her tongue, a secret whisper against her lips. His dark hair fell loosely, framing a sculpted face that held the power to unlock her deepest desires with a single look. "Mia," he purred, the warmth of his voice washing over her like soap brushing against bare skin. "You look ravishing." Mia felt her cheeks flush. It was the way he looked at her, like he could see through the layers of her carefully curated exterior, unearthing the raw, untamed spirit that lurked just beneath the surface. Each glance from him felt like a shackle and a key all at once, binding her to an attraction that sent shivers coursing through her. "Thank you." The words barely escaped her lips, heavy with the weight of unspoken desires. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, a nervous habit she couldn't shake, acutely aware of his presence and the unyielding tension that crackled between them, a yearning that felt darker than anything she had ever experienced. He stepped closer, the subtle scent of cedar and musk enveloping her. It was intoxicating, grounding, and ethereal all at once. His eyes roamed over her, igniting a fire in her chest. "Shall we?" he asked, gesturing toward the door. The depths of her desires, as if he had been hiding within the shadows, waiting for this very moment to emerge. "Are you going to invite me in, or are we going to stand here all night?" His voice was low, a deep, velvety timbre that sent ripples of anticipation through her body. Mia's breath caught in her throat. She knew she should say something that the sensible part of her, familiar with rules, boundaries, and the sacred spaces she'd built to protect her heart, was yelling for her to step back, to send him away. But he was so dangerously close, each heartbeat pulling her deeper into the magnetism only he could create. "Who are you?" The question escaped her lips before she could stop it, a desperate blend of curiosity and caution threading her voice. "Someone who knows exactly what you want, Mia. Despite the gravity of his admission, his lips quirked into an amused smile, as though they were sharing a secret that only the two of them understood. A shiver cascaded down her spine, awakening something deep within her that she thought had long since gone dormant. It wasn't just the thrill of the unknown, it was the heaviness of the air between them, drawing her closer as if his very presence beckoned. "Why would you think I want anything?" she managed, attempting to lift the veil of wariness over her intrigue. "Because I can see it in your eyes." He stepped further into the room, closing the door behind him with a soft click, sealing them into the swirling tension of the night. Desire is a powerful thing, and it craves to be acknowledged, to be unleashed. She turned away, feeling the heat rise to her cheeks, but he reached out, gently grasping her wrist with cool fingers, an electrifying contrast that sent a jolt through her system. But the magnetism of his presence pulled her closer, just as the moon pulls at the tides, inevitable and powerful. "Please, come in," she finally managed, her voice barely a whisper, as the door creaked open wider. The atmosphere thickened with unspoken promises. He stepped inside, his tall frame a force of nature, yet every movement carried an unmistakable grace. The air crackled as he closed the door behind him, sealing them into this intimate bubble where the outside world faded to a mere whisper. The scent of his cologne enveloped her, a dark blend of cedar and musk that clung to her senses like a seductive fog. She'd always been weak to certain scents, but this was something more dangerous. "Have you been waiting for me?" He took a step closer, the corners of his lips twisting into a smirk that danced with mischief and temptation. He moved with almost predatory enthusiasm, scanning the room as if marking his territory. Mia's pulse quickened. She could feel the weight of his scrutinizing gaze, igniting her skin, ensnaring her in a web of reckless impulse. "I didn't know you were coming," she said, instantly regretting the words as her heart declared otherwise. "Oh, Mia." He stepped even closer, his breath ghosting over her face, filled with warmth and something far darker. "I don't have to introduce myself to you, do I? You know who I am, what I am." His presence was intoxicating, a dark silhouette against the elegance of the room, and all that had once felt comforting now dazzled with foreboding. Every ounce of her will screamed at her to turn away, to lock herself back in the safety of her carefully constructed barriers. But every fiber of her being yearned to stay, to delve deeper into the enigmatic abyss he represented. "Why are you here?" Her voice trembled, a thread of defiance woven through the lacing of vulnerability. The atmosphere shifted as the door clicked shut, cocooning them in an almost suffocating stillness. The air vibrated with the weight of something unspoken, something dangerously exhilarating. Mia felt her pulse quicken, and with each passing second, the tension between them felt like a taut string ready to snap. "Introduce yourself," he said, his voice smooth yet insistent, cutting through the silence like a whisper of silk over skin. "Mia," she said, her voice trembling slightly as she met his dark, stormy gaze. "And you?" "Luca." The name slipped from his lips like a command, heavy with intent, wrapping around her like an unseen chain, drawing her deeper into the shadows of his presence. He stepped forward, breaking the invisible barrier that had kept them apart. Mia's heartbeat thudded violently in response, a mantra of warning and desire colliding within her. She was acutely aware of every feature that carved his sharp jawline, the intensity burning in his eyes, and the way he emanated an aura of danger mixed with desire. It was thrilling, intoxicating. "Your eyes, they tell a story," he murmured, almost to himself. "You've felt pain, haven't you?" Her breath hitched, all pretense of control dissolving under the weight of his scrutiny. How could he see through her defenses so easily? It made her feel exposed, vulnerable, but something inside her twisted to welcome it. "And you? What story do your eyes tell?" "More than I care to share." The hint of a smile flickered across his lips, yet it held an edge, a lingering shadow. But let's not dwell on that. He stepped even closer, invading her personal space to the point that she could feel the heat radiating off him. With a hesitant hand, Mia brushed her fingers against the warm fabric of his shirt, feeling the taut muscle beneath. Her heart raced as his penetrating gaze locked onto hers, an intensity flickering between them like an errant flame. Mia, he repeated, savoring her name as if it were a fine wine, swirling in the glass of his mouth. What a beautiful name for an equally intriguing woman. Although she should have stepped back, should have closed the distance between them and the flickering embers of reality outside, she found herself stepping forward instead, driven by an explosive cocktail of curiosity and desire. The past few weeks had been a study in temptation. The whisper of his presence was a siren's call, echoing in the deepest recesses of her psyche. There was something about him that made her forget the all too familiar constraints of her world, the meticulous order in which she'd built her life. The man in front of her was not just a shadow, but a tempest, unruly, inconceivably magnetic. The air grew warmer, the shadows around them thickening under the weight of their simmering tension. "What's your story, then?" she asked, her voice catching slightly. She wished for frivolous banter, but the questions that nestled themselves into the folds of her mind were anything but light-hearted. "What brings you to my doorstep?" He took one step further, closing the remaining distance, his presence engulfing her completely. She could feel the heat radiating off him, taste the intoxicating aroma of his cologne, a rich, musky scent that spoke of danger and desire woven together like the gold thread in a tapestry. "Honestly, Mia, it's hard to explain," he said, his voice low and intimate. "But to put it simply, I was drawn here, like a moth to a flame." He paused, studying her face, calculating her reaction. "You have a light about you that commands attention." She blinked, both flattered and unsettled. She could feel warmth creeping into her cheeks. The space between them hummed with electricity, the tension almost a tangible thing, as Mia managed to keep her gaze locked onto his. The shadows danced across the walls, elongating his chiseled form, while casting her delicate features in soft, inviting light. She felt like a moth drawn to the flame of his attention, consumed yet exhilarated. "Why are you here, really?" Mia finally managed to ask, pushing through the haze that fogged her thoughts. The question hung in the air, bold and a little reckless. She was teetering on the edge of some precipice, and her instinct told her that whatever lay below was deliciously dark. He took a step closer, closing that tantalizing distance, his eyes never leaving hers, rich, smoldering pools of longing and something darker. "You already know the answer," he replied, his voice dropping into a lower timbre that sent shivers racing down her spine. "We are drawn to one another." Mia shivered, but not entirely from the physical sensation. It was more a heat, a fire that flared in her belly, contradicting the cool air between them. She felt dizzy, yet alive, entranced by the gravity he exuded. "But nobody," he interrupted, his tone commanding. "No more games, Mia. I can see you've been chasing shadows of your own. It's why you let me in." Her breath hitched at his words. He was right, but this concoction of fear and desire was intoxicating. "And what if I want to chase you instead?" The words escaped before she could bottle them back up, but they lingered in the air like a challenge, electrifying the already tense space between them. His lips curled into a dangerously alluring smile, one that sent her pulse racing. "Then consider yourself warned," he said, stepping further into her personal space, his presence enveloping her like a sumptuous cloak. "I'm not the kind of shadow you can just dance around." Mia's breath caught as he stepped closer, his presence an intoxicating blend of danger and allure. The shadows that flickered on the wall seemed to whisper secrets she couldn't quite grasp, wrapping around her like a dark veil. "Why I am here." His voice was low, almost a murmur, each syllable dripping with intention. I am here because I can't resist what the night has to offer. His eyes, deep and enigmatic, bore into hers, stirring a tempest of emotion that churned within her. And right now, that means you. Her heart raced, each beat echoing like a drum against her ribs. The steady rhythm of sensation whirred against the primal urge to retreat, to escape the consuming energy he emitted. But a thrill shot through her veins, a siren call that urged her to remain, to explore the depths of this dangerous attraction. "What do you want from me?" she managed, her voice a breathy whisper as she bravely held his gaze. "Desire," he replied simply, yet the way he said it made her skin tingle, the word falling from his lips like a forbidden promise. "And perhaps a taste of this undeniable chemistry swirling between us." He closed the distance further, their bodies nearly touching. It was intoxicating and terrifying. She felt torn between the instinct to flee and the desire to surrender. He raised his hand and she stiffened, but instead of invading her space, he brushed his fingers against her cheek. Light, teasing, just enough contact to send flames licking through her body. "Mia," he murmured, and the raw longing in his voice sent her heart spiraling. "You have secrets. I can smell them on you." Mia swallowed hard as she stepped back, breaking the damning contact. "You don't know anything about me. Don't know?" He leaned in, invading the space she had tried to create, asserting himself in a way that made her heartbeat raced faster. Mia's heart thrummed like a wild bird caught in a storm, desperate to escape as she stood entranced by Lucas's gaze. Each word that slithered from his lips wrapped around her, thickening the air between them until it bordered on suffocating. There were words she had rehearsed in her mind, the cautious, the practical, but in this moment none of them seemed to matter. What does the night offer?" she whispered, her voice trembling, barely above a breath. Lucas stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body, mingling with the crisp air that wrapped around her like a lover's embrace. Shadows clung to them, forming a cocoon that felt utterly removed from reality. "Everything, Mia, everything you dare not seek during the day," he answered, his tone velvety and potent. "Ambition, desire, freedom." His words ignited something deep within her, a growing craving that had been nestling within her heart since they first met at the gala. It was wrong, she knew that. There were lines drawn in the sand, boundaries she had promised herself never to breach. But the way he looked at her, as if she were the only person in the world, made those lines seem deceptively fragile. Mia took a step back, breaking the spell that bound them momentarily. She needed air, distance, sanity. "I can't," she said, her voice firmer now. "This is wrong. I cannot do this. You're dangerous." A sardonic smile bloomed on Lucas's lips, a flash of something predatory. "Dangerous? That's flattering, but hardly an accurate descriptor. I prefer to think of myself as intriguing." He tilted his head slightly, the shadows accentuating the sharp angles of his face. "But let me assure you, the danger is not in me, but in the craving she've kept buried deep within, a perilous desire ignited by curiosity, Mia." At that moment, she felt both exposed and powerful. Mia's breath mingled with the chilled air of the dimly lit room, an intoxicating mixture of fear and anticipation surging within her. As Lucas closed the gap, his presence consumed her senses like a wildfire, reckless and uncontainable. The unmistakable magnetic pull drew her toward him, illuminated by the flickering lanterns. Like a dance of fate, she felt compelled to join. "What does the night offer?" she repeated, barely aware of her own voice, her heart beating a frantic rhythm that pulsed through her entire being. Lucas's lips twitched into a knowing smile, an expression that promised secrets beyond her current understanding. "What it always offers, Mia. Revelations, pleasures, sins." He leaned closer, his breath warm against her skin, sending a thrilling chill racing down her spine. And tonight it offers you and me the chance to see who we really are beneath the masks we wear. The last words hung between them, laden with an invitation she was half ready to accept, yet equally frightened of what reality might reveal if she stepped through that threshold. She searched his gaze, probing the depths that held emotional storms she longed to navigate, yet feared might drown her. "Are you sure you want to plunge into those depths?" she finally whispered, challenging the walls that had guarded her heart for so long. Somewhere within her, beneath her defenses, an electric thrill burst to life at the thought of unmasking every secret hidden beneath the tension between them. Lucas, for a moment, seemed to contemplate the question, the shadows wrapping around him, almost as if they were part of his own dark allure. "My desire for you has raged like this stormy night. Surrendering could offer both our truths." His voice softened, laced with an almost reverent tone. Mia's pulse quickened as Lucas leaned in, his breath brushing her ear like silk against skin, igniting a fire that pulsed low in her belly. "It offers everything," he murmured, each word a promise laced with danger. "Pleasure, pain, secrets, things you've always dreamt about but never dared to claim." The dim lighting flickered, casting shadows that danced around them, specters of their intertwined fates. She could feel the heat radiating from him, a warmth that beckoned her closer, whispering sweet, dark promises. "And what if I want?" The question hung in the air between them, a fragile thread, ready to snap with a single wrong word. "What do you want?" Lucas countered, stepping back just slightly, enough to search her eyes for the truth bottled up inside her. The challenge in his gaze sent a shiver down her spine. The room around them felt like it had faded into an echo, diminishing in significance next to the pulsating intensity that enveloped them. Mia could only focus on him, on the magnetic allure of his presence, and the dangerous edge that came with it. He was a riddle she craved to unravel. "Freedom?" she whispered, letting the slightest hint of vulnerability slip through her armor. "To be beyond consequence." His lips curled into a smirk, dark and knowing. "Freedom comes at a price, Mia. Do you know what you're willing to pay?" With every beat of her heart, she felt the resonance of his words. Her mouth wiped dry, her thoughts racing through tangled possibilities. Was there a boundary she wouldn't cross? Because standing in front of him, all firm resolve, shattered like glass beneath the weight of her yearning. "Maybe," she began, her voice faltering with uncertainty, "maybe I'd pay anything." "Anything," Lucas echoed, his tone sultry, a predator toying with its prey. "You'd gamble with your heart?" Mia's breath hitched as she searched Lucas's eyes, trying to decipher the depths of his promise, the unknowns that lay behind that fierce facade. The darkness of the room seemed to wrap around her like an intimate shroud, amplifying her nerves while simultaneously igniting a spark of exhilaration deep within. The air was thick, crackling with unspoken promises and the scent of wild musk, heady and tantalizing. "What do you dream about?" Lucas asked, his voice a low murmur that sent shivers across her skin. "What dark corners of your mind remain untouched?" She hesitated, feeling exposed under his intense scrutiny. The vulnerability of the question danced along her spine, igniting a longing she had never dared to voice. She stuttered, then swallowed hard. "I don't know what you mean. Do you dare to tell me?" He prodded gently, stepping closer, closing the distance that both thrilled and terrified her. He was a predator and she was the prey. It thrilled her more than she cared to admit. Mia glanced away to shield herself from the intensity of his gaze. She could lie, but the temptation of the truth bubbled up within her. "I dream of freedom," she finally whispered, the word carrying the weight of her innermost desires. "Freedom from everything, the expectations, the perfect little life everyone thinks I want." Lucas's lips curled into a faint smile, rich with understanding, and perhaps a hint of something darker. And what if I told you I could offer you that freedom? Her heart raced as the implications of his words hung in the air between them, a potent mix of danger and allure. What do you mean? She breathed, caught between her curiosity and the instinct to retreat. There are nights where the shadows hold more than just solace, he replied, inching closer until their bodies nearly touched. Mia's fingers trembled slightly as she traced the outline of the ornate mirror's frame, a fleeting connection to a world that now seemed so distant. The aftermath of the night's escapades hung in the air like a lingering perfume, heady, intoxicating, and ripe with the promise of what had transpired. Lucas stood across the room, the soft glow of the lamplight illuminating the sharp angles of his jaw, his posture relaxed, yet charged with an unspoken tension. "What are we, Lucas?" The question spilled from her lips before she could temper it with something tamer, something meant to soften the edges of their chaotic relationship. It was raw, cutting through the silence they shared, a quiet threshold, teetering on the brink of revelation. His gaze locked onto hers, intense and unwavering. "We're whatever we want to be," he replied, his voice a low timbre that sent a shiver down her spine. "Tonight was about exploring the boundaries of desire, didn't we? No labels needed." Mia could still feel the ghosts of their shared moments clinging to her skin like a velvet wrap, a shroud of fear, temptation, and unrelenting hunger. As exciting as it had been, the weight of those words loomed large in the space between them. The thrill of their connection was undeniable, but with it came the jagged edges of doubt and uncertainty. "But what about tomorrow?" she pressed, stepping closer, her heart rallying against the wariness that clawed at the back of her mind. "Tomorrow," he echoed, stepping forward as well, the air crackling with tension. "Tomorrow, we'll figure it out, just like we figured out how to play this wild game." He brushed his thumb against her cheek, a fleeting caress that ignited a tumult of emotions that made her pulse.